The book starts with Lenerd's old life, and it was really quite interesting. But Lenerd, you actually had a very successful career. You came through a traditional upbringing. You went to a traditional boys' school. You went to university, and you're doing well in your career. But something wasn't sitting right with you. And you had this moment where you were walking along Clifton and things just didn't feel right. Can you tell us about that moment for you?
Oh, Mark, it's great talking to you, man. And it's lovely talking to the 8 o'clock club. Love what you guys are doing. Yeah, so really appreciate being here. And it's wonderful to share the space. Yeah, it's I was always in my life enjoyed what I was doing work-wise. And, so it was really that last 4 or 5 years where I had this big internal shift happening within me. And so around about 2009, I moved from Johannesburg to Cape Town and we started a new business. Yeah, I just had a inner shift happening with me in terms of, a voice talking to me, telling me, I should be doing something different with my life going forward. And I tried to drown that out, and I had a good 4 years of that. So from 2009 to 2012, 13, I tried to drown that voice out that said to me, it was time for something new in my life. And I remember up to 2009, I was pretty much enjoying, the business and stuff that I was in, and we were having a lot of fun. And it was like really disruptive businesses, and really fun businesses and really new age businesses and really fun and casual, kind of stuff that we were doing. And yes, and I just felt this inner shift. And so that was quite tough, out of the blue, worked for many years and studied for many years, and all of a sudden, wow, just having this internal dialogue happening, that I should be doing something else in my life. Now, looking back at it now, it makes so much more sense, and maybe we can talk about that a bit later. But then it was extremely confusing, and it's amazing. I can see the same shift happening to a lot of people around me. I mean, I've seen it the last 4 or 5 years. I can see it now even more so. I mean, this whole shift is accelerating. This last 3 months, even more so, So in essence, what happened with me on an internal basis there, very soon after I then went on my journey, I realized that what's internally happening with me is actually happening right across the planet, in 2012, 2013, and now it's just accelerated. But get back to your question in terms of Clifton Beach, and that was a profound moment, So 2009 to 2013, I had a very, 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 very strong voice saying to me, I should be doing something different with my life. And it was almost an out of skin feeling. It was almost like I was looking at myself from the outside. I had this camera in the corner of the room looking at my life, and I was playing in this movie of my life. It was pretty insane. It was really disconcerting and confusing. So I tried to drown that voice out. A lot of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. The first chapter of the book is called Sex, Drugs, and Jacuzzis. And after 4 years of that, I realized I wasn't going to drown it out. It culminated in me taking a walk there on Clifton Beach, and up to then, it progressively got more intense. I could really feel more disconnected from myself, more disconnected from nature. And I remember people from looking at the outside of this picture, it was a beautiful, successful picture. Here's a guy with successful, in business, and what everyone is strive for, having money, and I was a single boy for most of that time. A lot of beautiful women around me. So the picture looks really cool, but from my inner space, I was really disconnected. And then one day I walked on Clifton Beach, and I tell you, after 5 minutes, I was just bored. I just looked around, and I looked at people that don't know the place. There's this beautiful white sand, and this beautiful turquoise waters, and a blue sky, and Table Mountain is right up there, which is stunning. And I looked at all of this, and I went like, okay, this obviously this must be beautiful. This, objectively speaking, I had this whole movie going in my mind, but I myself can't see the beauty. I was after 5 minutes was bored. I was like, And I had this really strong feeling in my, almost like a intestines being shredded, feeling in my stomach and my, my chest and a contraction. And I was just bored, and I went home and I called some people and let's have a party. And I call that my rock bottom Clifton walk. When that happened, I realized, okay, you know what, this is, it's time for a change. And it's really then when I really surrendered to the voice, and from there on, the journey started.
That was quite an interesting moment in the book, because, for years you've been trying to drown the voice out with the booze and the drugs and the partying. And I can imagine, for somebody who is unfamiliar with spiritual topics, having a voice or a strong intuition must be quite strange. But then when you stopped the partying and the booze and the drugs for a while in order to listen to the voice, you didn't really get much. Like, I think you said you didn't get any answers for a while, and then you had to change the way that you were asking the questions. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, spot on. I was very much left brain and very much, not at all in the spiritual space. I mean, I wasn't even doing yoga or in meditation or any of that. Intuition wise, I think I used that massively in the business, but I only recognized that later. And that's actually beautiful learning. Later on, I realized how much of that I have actually utilized there. But at that point in time, I wasn't, at all in that space in terms of, maybe in business decisions using my intuition, but not in terms of this massive change in my life. So when I surrendered to the voice eventually, and I just realized, as I say in the book, I'm, quite happy to fight the good fight. But if there's no sense fighting a fight you can't win. And I just realized, I'm not going to drown this voice out. And so I surrendered to it. And when I stopped partying, it took me still a good 6-8 months to leave the work environment, because I felt so responsible for a lot of the people there. But when I then started asking the voice now, this intuition, this feeling, okay, so what should I be doing with my life now? I stopped partying, and I was very much in this receptive space. I had absolutely no answers. And I was like, okay, what the hell? And this process went on for a few weeks. And, eventually I changed the tact of the questions. And And I started asking, so how can I find out what I should be doing? And then the answer was, it was like almost amazing. It just dropped in, it's fascinating. It was just this message that popped in. And it was clear out all of the old to make space for the new to come in. This is like this one sentence. And I went like, oh, wow. So what does that mean? And then there was silence again. So I went, what the fuck? Sorry for the Latin. But then I realized, okay, well, let me sit with this. And then I sat with that, and the truth was so profound, we know the truth. The truth is in us, we know it, it's all in us. The power is all in us, So if you sit with that, I realized that the truth in that, and I realized that's what I had to do, and that was my journey, that everyone's journey is different, but for my journey specifically there, it was to clear out the old, and that was quite drastic, it involved a lot of stuff.
Now you had quite an interesting moment, or there's an interesting line early in the book. Now you were leading quite a big company. You had 300 to 400 employees. And you speak of having to give these presentations, akin to the Wolf on Wall Street type of motivating your staff. And then you say, I felt like such a fraud.
Yeah.
Can you describe that a bit more for us?
Oh, yeah, for sure, Mark. It's a very deep, vulnerable moment. And just to give a bit of background about the Wolf of Wall Street, just listen to the funny part before the vulnerable part. My advertising agency gave me a copy of the Wolf of Wall Street, and this was probably 2011, 2012. And right in the first page of the book, they wrote, "Happy birthday, Len, the Wolf of Adderley Street." And our business was in Adderley Street in Cape Town. And it was like, later I learned from the creative director that gave me the book that he actually wanted to warn me, about what this crazy life could lead to. But, I was in such a space there that I took it as a compliment. I was like thinking I was quite cool. But, so when you're reading this book, but I could also start seeing, some stuff. I could also, at some level, I could actually pick up, that, listen, there's some really massive similarities with this stuff. On the party front, it was a beautiful business, not the same as a book. It was not on a business front, but on a personal front, more similarities. Our business was a really, it's good business. But yes, that's exactly it. So I've been feeling that for the last few years, that I need to do something else with my life, and I can see it with a lot of people around me, and especially senior guys in businesses, especially people running businesses. If you're right at the top of the business, or the leader of the business, if you're having these thoughts, there's not really anyone to talk to. You can't hardly talk to your team, your senior team, or the people in the business, because they're just going to really start getting worried. So from that point of view, it was just something that I had to really dealt with myself. I wish there was someone to speak to, and then so now people are talking to me about this stuff, and I really find it so wonderful to help people with this, because I wish I had that. At that point, I wasn't. So I was playing this movie, on the one hand, this uncertainty of what I should be doing something else, but on the other hand, also having to keep a business together, and that was really tough. So getting up there and talking, doing this, I really felt like acting. So I really felt like a fraud in that space.
I agree with you that there are probably quite a few people who would like to make the shift, or have made the shift, or are feeling this. But I'd like to know, what advice would you give to people who are feeling perhaps stuck in a career or a job and would like to make a change?
Mark, I think it's it's a deep inner journey. If you start feeling that, it's probably much more than the job. It is a broader process of really dropping deep within and dropping inside. So my journey was a journey around the world. 35 countries and 5 years and all of that. But it was in essence an inner journey. So my advice would be to drop into your inner journey, and to really start listening to your truth, and to follow that. And then at a point when it's right, when it's logical, to make those jumps that you need to. Now, I don't say by that necessarily that means like tomorrow go out and resign your job at all. I think there are a lot of other ways to do this journey. I did mine in a very extremist way. I'm a little bit of extreme personality. And I think also for me doing it this way, very intensive, and I had very grateful that I had the means to go and do that for 5, 6, 7 years. It also allowed me to drop really deep within the journey, so I really, really understand it. And I suppose that's now what's coming up, and people are coming to me, and I'm going to really help people because I've done it so deep. But one doesn't have to do it that way. And a lot of people reach up and say, oh, but I don't want to leave my wife or husband and job and kids and go around the world, or I can't. And my message is very, very clear. You don't have to do that. You don't have to leave anything. But you do have to drop within. You have to go into your inner space, into your, call it your higher self, into your heart. You have to start exploring yourself, getting to know yourself, and start expressing your truth.
Did you have any inkling that your life would change so much?
No, and no, I must say I didn't. I would definitely didn't for a moment thought I'll be writing a book. It's really interesting. I mean, that's the last thing, and I suppose that's the magic of this. Oh God, but I get emotional if I think about this. That's the magic of this reality, this world we live in. The moment you open up to your own truth, and your own passion, and your own higher self, just magic happens. So it's the last thing I would have thought, that I would be 35 years around the world and all the things I experienced, and then writing a book about it, and then now sitting talking to you about it. It's the last thing I thought. When I left, I thought, okay, let me take a year sabbatical. I'm really messed up and confused. Let me just take a year off and let travel the world, and let just, not just travel the world. I realized I had to get out of my comfort zone. It was not just leaving the job. It was also leaving a relationship with that for the last 9 months or so. I had to also be single. I had to be out of the country. I really knew I had to do that. But I didn't realize it was going to be so so intense and so wide and so extreme. And it's fascinating. I mean, in the business days, and I'm sure the business guys laugh, some of my senior team, because, they wrote the business reports. My financial guy, I would get him to write the business report, and operation guy, that, and even if the CEO reports and whatever that. And I would edit the stuff, but I didn't write that stuff, so it wasn't really my space. But then I would travel the world. I just loved writing and I loved sharing, and people enjoyed it. And so I didn't realize to what extent, how wide it was going to be.
There was an interesting moment early on in your trip where you were sitting in South America and you were starting to feel lonely, and you thought about I think it was you weren't going to see your kids, and you thought about perhaps going back to Cape Town, and then you started sending your ex-girlfriend a message, and all of a sudden you sort of had this moment of clarity that coincided with a beautiful rainbow and a symbol of a cross. Tell us about that moment.
Yeah, that was an amazing point, and it was a really hard part, and I think what often doesn't come across is, people look at the journey, and I was sharing blogging, and I was putting on Facebook, prior to leaving, I wasn't even on Facebook, but my few good friends, Brother Lee in the book, and then also Jade, has changed the names, that I was going out, say, please just go on Facebook and tell us where you are in South America so we know you're still alive. So I would be posting this stuff, and I think, even though I went to a vulnerable point, later on I would share some vulnerable stuff. I think often there's also some nice photos with it, and people see the photos, and even if you're very vulnerable, it still looks glamorous. Yes, in a way it is, but in a way it looks extremely hard, going on your own into a continent where you don't speak the lingo at all. And I mean, I don't know how many people have been to South America, but most places there, people don't speak, English. It's very much, it's Spanish. And being in this country, you can't speak the language. I'm not traveling with friends. I'm not traveling with people. So after 2 months, plus I'm just come out of this whole setup in South Africa. It was really hard. I got to a point where I realized, wow, man, this is tough. Do I really want to do this? It's almost later on, I read the Hero's Journey, Joseph Campbell and the Hero's Journey, this whole route we got, and then I went, oh, it makes so much sense, So I had all those things happening to me along the way, all those challenges, all those thresholds that I had to go through, So it was a really tough journey. Even though the photos look glamorous, the journey was really tough. Yeah, and I sat there, and it was in the Sacred Valley. It's a beautiful valley in Peru. Just I flew into Cusco, and then you go from Cusco into Pisac, and then from Pisac to Machu Picchu. It's only about 80 kilometers, and I took 1 month to travel the Sacred Valley, village by village, down to Machu Picchu. And roughly in the middle of the Sacred Valley, and it was amazing. We walk in nature. Remember now, this is now the guy that can't work 4 or 5 minutes on his own in Clifton Beach. Now I was walking in the mountains, and it was like I was connecting with nature again. And so part of it was really amazing in terms of I was feeling this stuff happening in one dimension with me, where I was starting to make connection again with myself and with nature. But on the other hand, there was no company, and I think for anyone, probably 2 months on your own, there in the mountains, and so it's going to be pretty tough. And I hit a point where I went like, wow, man, this would be so lekker, it would be so nice having someone with me, and just before I left, I broke up with the girl. She was beautifully supportive, amazing woman that I was going out with, and she was amazingly supportive about me going on this journey. And even though I broke her heart, she knew I had to do this on my own. And I just sat there and felt, wow, man, I'd so love to have her come and join me. It would make it so much easier. And I knew she would have, but I also knew that I wouldn't be abandoning the journey by doing that, because then you're with someone and you're back into that in a space where the safety of that, where you don't have to go inside yourself. In a way, a distraction. I write in my book about a lot of distractions. There's nothing wrong having a beautiful personal relationship, but if it is done in a way to distract from yourself from going inside yourself, then, and I realized that. I sat there, but I still felt I was going to do this. And then I looked up, and I was sitting on a rooftop of a place called a restaurant, but it's very basic in a place, a rooftop, having something to eat just on my own. And then, God, Mark, I saw this Now, the Sacred Valley is this massive, long, beautiful nature strip with these massive Andes mountains on the side. It is a pretty surreal place. I mean, you know, it is really, really, really magical. Not just Machu Picchu, but that whole valley, you know, where the Incas lived and still live. You know, I just looked up and, you know, it's actually quite narrow, the valley. There's a long, narrow valley run like that, probably about maybe 600-700 meters long. And I looked up and I had this massive, beautiful rainbow just in front of me, you know, most beautiful rainbow I've ever seen. And I looked at this thing and I just went like, this is amazing. And I just stared at this. And then in the middle of this rainbow was this building, you know, and then in the middle of the building was this big, beautiful cross, you know, South America, mainly Catholic, you know, there's a lot of crosses around. And it was just like surreal, you know, this rainbow with this cross. And I just felt such elation, you know, happening, you know, within me. And I just went like, wow. And I just, you know, all the sadness and despair kind of turned into like really gratitude, you know, gratitude and inspiration and happiness. And I just put the phone down and I realized, no, I must continue on this journey.
Yeah, it was a special moment, but that wasn't the only time where you were sort of almost derailed. You stopped at a few villages along the way where there was the temptation to get comfortable. I mean, they were all such beautiful villages and you were meeting awesome people. I think the one place you were offered a job as the barman, another place there was a beautiful woman who wanted to know how long you were staying in town. And each time you were pulled forward on your journey.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's really it's amazing. You know, this Euro's journey is fascinating. The challenges along the way, and I'm popping back to that now. But when I wrote my book, and after I've already written a second draft of it, I came across it and I looked at the book and I thought, good God, I've actually written the Euro's journey. You know, it's amazing. So those challenges were there on the way, and you know, nothing wrong. I could have probably done that, but I just knew I had to continue. And yes, you're right. After the Sacred Valley, I was still in Peru, and I ended up in Mancora, which is this beautiful surfing village just before you get the Ecuador border. You know, it's up on the coast of Peru. It's a pretty surreal place. You know, they've got the most amazing sunsets. It's amazing, but the village itself is a little bit of a scene out of the movie Mad Max, because there's this beautiful beach, like basic hotels and restaurants, like, you know, on the beach, and then there's this road with other let's say restaurants on this side, but then this road running through it, which is the highway between Lima, the capital of Peru, and Ecuador. So these big, massive tracks would go hurling through there. It was really an insane place, but the sunsets was amazing, and I made some really good friends there. I was there for 3 weeks. I was reading a Robin Sharma book, you know, Find Your Destiny, sitting on a deck there at the hotel I was, and I became very good friends with, you know, Amiga Jorge in my book, and then also the owner of the hotel. And, you know, she actually offered me, you know, on the first night there, offered me, you know, listen, my barman is out, you want to become a barman? Yeah, that's your destiny. She saw the book and said, this is your destiny, you should do that. And it was amazing. After 3 weeks, actually, I actually just on the same day bought a ticket to go that evening, because I realized I could still be sitting in Mancora, but I just knew I had to continue on the journey. And so there was a bit of that in the Medellin, in Colombia, as you say there. Again, you know, beautiful Colombian DJ that I met, an amazing, beautiful woman. And I could have, you know, connected with her further. We didn't. I was in a celibacy space then, but I was, once again, you know, there was the answer, you know, I could see myself staying here but I didn't realize I had to move on with the journey.
The journey is quite interesting in many ways, but in the early stages of your trip, while you're in South America, you really battled with parasites. Yeah. And the parasite journey, you know, you went on 4 courses of antibiotics. You went to see a number of different types of healers to try and get rid of them. And the parasites led you to your first plant journey, where you tried ayahuasca to get rid of the parasites. And that was an interesting experience, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was crazy. You know, so I wasn't aware of any of this. You know, in Peru, I realized that a lot of the tourists come there do ayahuasca. And I was like, oh, what's this? So I wasn't even aware of that. And then in Colombia, I came across it. So I didn't do it in Colombia for the spiritual part, advancement. I really did it to sort of let me get rid of the parasites. But then I had a beautiful journey, and I had a Saturday night ayahuasca journey, and then the following Saturday night we had again. It was very much for the local people. It was like a local setting of like 30, 40 local people. We only like 2, 3 foreigners in it, and it was there in a coffee region between Medellin and Cali. Yeah, and it was for me. It was mainly purging. It was a really depurging journey, but it was also some beautiful insights. So it was my first contact with the world of the plant spirits, and it was really profound.
You had a moment of clarity in between the diarrhea and the vomiting, where you had this image of yourself standing on a ledge.
Yeah.
And, it was about the drugs. And it was, you could move forward or you could move backwards. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was fascinating. That popped out of the blue. And it was specifically relating to one specific drug, and it was relating to cocaine. And now the interesting thing is in the Cape Town days, I actually didn't really work for me. So it was part of the stuff, a lot of drugs going on in Cape Town, as there is all over the world, really. So cocaine is very much, as for people know, a high society drug in this country, in the UK, not in South America at all. But I always struggled with it even in the party days. I was probably using more like MDMA and stuff like that, which was quite something different, more on an ecstasy basis. But it's really interesting that the cocaine came up, because that was really also, I think, I believe, a very dangerous drug. I really think it is extremely dangerous, and it is underestimated how dangerous it is, because it's seen as very much like a high society drug, fun drug, and so on. But it just enhances. I mean, the ego is an illusion in any event, and cocaine just boosts that ego even more. So my vision there was very much, and standing on this, and I had just popped out of the blue. I was like, oh, okay, and that popped up, and it came, and it went like, okay, you don't really like to use this stuff. Why do you use it? I was like, oh, that's an interesting thing. That's silly. Why would I use something I don't actually like? That was a really profound moment. And then the plant spirit and the journey, the plant took me to another space where it was, okay, do you want to see the dangers of this? And I saw myself moving to the edge of a ledge, and I looked over and I could think, okay, do I want to reduce my association or reduce my association with the specific drug? And I reduced it, and I moved back from the ledge, and I could play around and say, let's say I increase it, for example, if I were to use it or use more. And I was right on the edge, and I went like, okay, a bit more, and I was, wow, it was crazy. I was like going to fall off this edge, like a real life. I'm going to crash to death. And that was really profound. It was a really profound message. I mean, it's kind of logical, I suppose, but it's amazing to have the vision and the clarity and the teachings and the instruction, from something in such a way, in such a clear way. So yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Despite the warning of that vision on that plant journey, a few weeks or a few months later, you had a very close encounter with the law after somebody had just handed you a small amount of cocaine.
Damn, I was hoping you weren't going to ask me that. No, not just joking. No, that's all in my book. It's there, it's out there.
Yeah.
Yes, that's interesting. Then later I went up to Medellin, Colombia, and then later on my way to Guatemala and Panama. I stopped a week before going up to Guatemala, where really the whole kind of journey expanded. But that week before Guatemala, I flew into Panama, so we had a connecting flight from Colombia to there, and I thought, let me stay a week there. And then I came across a friend of mine that actually I met in Bancora, and I also met in Ecuador, a Dutch lady that I made good friends with, and we connected on that, not connected, even we actually, she told me she's also in Panama, and I joined them at their hostel, and it ended up being a party, and we ended up going out, and I ended up having a parcel of given a by one of the Panama guys, like, oh, do you want some? Yeah, to get put in my pocket. And then we actually ended up partying, and then at a place where the police came in, and they kind of came in. South America, the police are, it's like military. It's like machine guns, and it's like it's a pretty extreme place, from that point of view. And yeah, they came in, and I called this guy in my book, the tall young guy. He was a rather friendly guy, and he was really nice to us. And he was like, really, people in South America are so friendly. They just pull you in, and so he actually gave it down. I bought him some drinks. But then the police came in and arrested the guy that took him out. Good God! And I went like, wow. I actually managed to get out of my pocket underneath the thing, but I went like, wow. And we ended up actually, crazy thing is we ended up partying that evening. But the next morning I woke up and I went like, good God, when am I going to get this message? This could have gone terribly wrong. Sitting in a Central American jail, and especially being a gringo, a white guy, or maybe not a white guy, but a foreigner that's in a Central American jail could be pretty rough.
You started to piece the vision together, but something that I'm interested in, when you're on that journey, you were posed with the question, why use something that you don't enjoy using? What sort of insights do you have on that?
Yeah, that's a really good one. It's and I think I see that a lot around me. It's a distraction. So I think and remember, and later on, we'll probably talk about Dr. Bill later on. He was asking about the drug of choice and asking me what's my drug of choice and stuff. And I think that's what it is. A drug of choice could be not necessarily a drug like a substance. It could be anything. It could be work. It could be, cycling. It could even be yoga. It could be anything. So I think what happens is that for me it was sex and drugs. For me it was, and probably more sex than drugs. I actually probably use very little drugs compared to the amount of sex, but that was my distraction. So to use then something that I realized wasn't that good for me was, I realized in a deeper level this wasn't good for me, but it was a distraction from having the inner journey. And I see that all around me, and I see it, I can see that now clearer with people around me. And I think that's the bottom line, So we get so used to distracting ourselves, because it's so difficult to drop deep within, to really analyze where you want to go, what do you want to do out of your life, what is your truth. And to be very honest with you, what is your truth? It means you're going to change a lot of stuff. And that's very uncomfortable. That means getting out of the comfort zone. That's very disruptive. That's uncomfortable for people around us. So therefore, we do things that we know is not good for us. That may be a substance, that may be working yourself to death. People can work until like 10, 12 at night, and until late hours at work, and they come home and do emails and not really speak to the family or themselves. And then, or it can be a sport, and not knocking yoga or mountain biking, but it could be the weekend at home, but would be 18 hours a day doing mountain biking or yoga or whatever, but not really spending it connecting with other people or with themselves. Sorry, long answer to a short question, Mark. But yeah, I think it's a distraction. I think that's why people do it, and that's probably why I also did it.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Dr. Bill, because I wanted to ask you about Dr. Bill. He sounds like a remarkable, colorful character. A medical doctor, a psychologist, I think you said as well, but clearly very gifted psychically, able to see clairvoyantly, and had a profound impact on your journey. And like you say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Tell us about Dr. Bill.
Yeah, I was just going to say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and that's what happened. I was there in Guatemala, and that was straight after Panama. That's just straight after what we discussed earlier. I ended up in Guatemala, and I ended up at Louw at Titlan. Louw is the Spanish word for the lake in Guatemala. It's amazing, beautiful place, 1,600 meters above sea level. That's a wooden house. I actually rented a room in that wooden house, but there was no one ever there, so I had the whole house for myself. That's on the deck there. That's where I sat and meditated and started doing yoga and reading and all of that. So this was a magical place, the lake. You know, it is really a magical place. It's a few volcanoes around it. You know, two of them still active, one or two still active. And there's a tiny village, tiny Mayan village called San Marcos on the shores of that lake. And I ended up, you know, at the hostel there before I went to stay in this house here, and I asked the owner of the hostel, you know, is there anyone here that in the village that can help with parasites? But of course, by then I had like 4 courses of antibiotics. It wasn't clear the parasites, and I was just looking for someone that could help clearing it with like more natural ways. And he told me about Dr. Bill. I ended up walking into this little. Now, I must remember, this is now South America. It's a Mayan village on a lake. Now, I walked into the little. Can you walk this? San Marcos, there are no cars, you know, there's little footpaths in this village, and, you know, I walk in, and there's this, in the jungle, this little shop there with a room on the top, you know, a house on the top. I went in there, and that's where I met Dr. Bill. Yeah, so I met him there, and I discussed it with him, you know, like parasite stuff, and that really started a whole new journey. A real shamanic guy, you know. He had his medical degree in honors in psychology, but his heritage is from a North Indian American tribe. He's Canadian. His grandfather was a shaman in the North American Indian shaman. He was a fascinating guy. You know, the first thing he told me is that he was buried alive when he was 8 years old, and then they had a ceremony outside, you know, above ground level, and then they took him out and asked him what happened, and he could explain to them the whole ceremony. And he said that's how they then confirmed that he's now a seer, the blue-eyed seer of the North, they called him. And now imagine me now, Mark, coming from this world I was in, people talking about this. I was like, let me get out of here. But I was so desperate. I was really in a space of really struggling with the parasites. I had lost 10 kilograms of muscle. When I left South Africa, I was really lean and fit, 82 kg. I dropped to 72 kg, and I was in the best shape of my life. Even with all the partying, you know, I was doing a lot of exercise and obviously, as in the book saying, also a lot of sex. So I was really physically in a great shape. But within 6 months, I lost 10 kilograms of muscle, you know, in my body. And I spoke to him, and immediately his answer was, "Oh, I can see the energy leaking there and there, and I can see it leaking here from your solar plexus, from your power." Well, I don't know what a chakra was then, but the energy center, your power chakra here, in front and the back. And I was like, "Wow, man, let me get out of here." I was so desperate. I listened to the guy, and that led to so many. I stayed on the lake for 2 months. I ended up going up to America for a while, but came back to the lake. And I had it was almost going through a threshold into another world. And he introduced me to some interesting stuff, interesting people there that I did a lot of work with. And it was almost as if everything happened, you know, opened. I stepped the threshold into the world of energy, the real world. You know, I was very much into the world of physical. You know, it's like, yeah. So he was really a teacher that opened that up for me, and from there it just exploded, expanded, and amazing journey.
Because he also introduced you to the English girl on the lake who did some emotional release work with you, and who later introduced you to the tantric teachings. So that time in San Marcos was a real profound turning point in your life, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a profound time, Mark. And we, you know, before I left, we started me with 2 other guys that was in the village. You know, I was one of the founding members of the San Marcos Sacred Men's Group. You know, so by the time I left, you know, we were starting doing stuff like that. You can see the massive within two short months. I just expanded. I read, Gary Zukav's Seat of the Soul, and later the journey, Heart of the Soul. And Gary Zukav just took me across another threshold, and fascinating stuff. If you have time, we'll talk about that, authentic power and, external power, authentic power, all the stuff that's happening in the world now. I read that, and this was 2014. And so I could see that now happening, massively accelerating, exactly this in 2014 when I read that. And I really meditated and sat with that book for a good 2 weeks. And then the English girl of the lake, obviously the names have been changed. got introduced to her. You know, I was like, had an hour session with like, you know, punching cushions, letting emotion releasing, you know, stuff. And I wasn't aware I had anything to release. I felt pretty okay then. You know, I was on my journey. I was like, you know, and doing hand screams, and you know, now I'm a big advocate of all of this stuff. You know, we're even fucking cushions. You know, crazy as that may sound. And in that process, you know, I did an hour of that, and I have to tell you, I was looking up at the corner of the room for the cameras and thinking, I'm going to be in a reality show after this. Now it's so amazing. Now I talk about this stuff. I'm teaching this stuff now, or like sharing this stuff with people now. It's so normal for me now. But going back to 2014, that was pretty surreal. But then the next day I woke up, you know, and I just felt the parasites have left me. You know, physically I still felt, you know, the strain, but I almost felt that consciousness had left me. You know, I almost felt that has gone out of my life, you know, and it's amazing what that emotional release did, you know. So it really, there was another sign from the universe that, listen, you're on the right track. This is beautiful stuff. You know, just follow this and expand that further. And as you said, as you then linked me up with, and I changed the name of the organization because, you know, I keep it really beautiful, sacred work they're doing, and I changed it to the transformational school. And I did a lot of their trainings around the work. But then a few months later in February, I did their first training, which was, a lot of it is tantra, but a lot of other stuff in their training also. But yeah, that all started on that 2 months at the lake. You know, the 2 months in the lake was profound.
Getting into the tantra stuff, the theme of sex is quite strong throughout the book. I mean, the first chapter had my eyes popping out of my head, and your journey with sex changed dramatically from where it was before you left Cape Town. And then the first course you described as spiritual sexual shamanism. It must have been like a complete transformation for you. How has your relationship with sex changed from before your journey till now?
Oh yeah, no, it was profound. I mean, especially the last 4 years in Cape Town, you know. Before that, I was in a beautiful 3-4 year relationship. It was amazing. You know, it was a deep soul connection. And it was like, you know, I've changed the name in the book also with Linda, but I changed the name, and it was really the love of my life then, and a beautiful, beautiful relationship we had. So I had that in my life. That was amazing. But then the 4 years in Cape Town was very much, you know, dropping out of the heart space, very much keeping it superficial. No, once again, you know, I think the fear of being hurt, the fear of, you know, it's so easier to do that. I mean, and I think, you know, I see that around a lot. I see it a lot with, you know, with around us, you know, people having to have alcohol before they can have sex, you know, like, you know, it's too hectic, the social, you know, the soul connection, you know, just keep it physical. So that 4 years in my journey was very much more physical. I really stayed out of the heart space, and was very much, you know, on the physical front. And then with the spiritual sexual shamanism part, that what happened was a deep dropping into vulnerability, dropping into my heart space, opening up my heart, and I was starting to make love again, as I suppose as I had done before, with my heart open, but now in an even deeper level. I then realized that, which was profound for me, but it's so logical. And I think, but if I look around, it's still very profound to many people, is that, you know, sex is only, you know, one very good friend of mine, Alex, you know, would love to give him credit for in the book, you know, Brother Easy. He pops up later in the book, and he actually, you know, had a beautiful discussion around this. And as he always used to say, there's like always these 3 levels of like sexuality. And you have the recreational part of it. No, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with the good fuck. No, there's nothing wrong with the physical part. That's beautiful. So you have that part, but then you also have the part where apart from dropping into the heart and that soul connection, you also have the part where it can actually be beautiful for health, and you can move this energy in your body, and you can heal parts. You can heal parts of your body and illnesses. Just by moving life force energy, sexual energy around your body, you can heal yourself of anything. You know, there's a massive healing modality just in that space. And then on a third kind of further level, it is a beautiful way of, on a way, let's call it, of a spiritual awakening call it enlightenment if you want to. It's a beautiful journey of, connecting. And that's what I found really enjoyed with the spiritual sexual shamanism stuff. It really connected the sexuality and the spirituality. So it was a beautiful journey for me to have had, not just on the sexual front, but also in the spiritual front, because I came across so many of the spiritual teachings, and not knocking anything. There's place for everything in life, but a lot of the teachings where it's from the heart up. All the chakras from the heart, all the energy centers from the heart up. It's cool, and your heart, and your third eye, and your crown, and all of that, and connect with consciousness. But below the heart, that's dirty stuff. Don't go there. That's off the earth. But that's just the point. That is off the earth. So actually connecting your spirituality with your sexuality, so grounding yourself into the earth, grounding yourself into your root chakra, grounding yourself in your sexuality and in your power, your sacred chakra, and then also linking in with consciousness, with the universe, with God. That was profound for me. And I'm not doing it justice in a 2-3 minute explanation of it, but I hope there's some pointers there that can help, to explore. And I think that's what the book does also, hopefully, is just give some pointers. So that was profound on many fronts.
There's a lot in the book about that spiritual sexual shamanism that people can learn from. But if I had to ask you for, say, one piece of advice, if a couple was looking to enhance their sexual relationship in a way that brings in spirituality, what would you say?
Oh, Mark, the first thing that dropped in now was vulnerability. And I mean, if you ask me this question tomorrow, it might be something different. I don't know. I just believe in the magic of the universe, of God, and the universal consciousness. I think this was the right answer for now. So let me expand on that. For right now, I feel, whether it's the audience or whether whoever's online, for some reason, I feel strongly to put that forward. Maybe it's this magic stuff that I'm busy working with now that's coming out. I think vulnerability is so much power in that. And there's so much connection possibility on a soul level with that. And, if you in that partnership stuff and you can be seen, if you can be vulnerable and you can be seen by the other person, then you really drop in a deep heart space. It's almost as if, and not just even in a partnership setup, but also in life, but especially in that partnership setup also. It's almost as if you're not vulnerable and you have this shield up, then life can't come to you. Your partner can't get through to you. There's like this barrier. And what I found in all of the stuff in the workshops and a lot of the stuff I've done and a lot of stuff, the moment you drop the shield, the moment you become vulnerable, the moment you open to life and you open to the energy of the universe, that energy can come through to you. It doesn't hit this barrier anymore. So you actually feel life more. Life comes to you and it vibrates right through your being, right through your body. And you're just so much more part of this whole beautiful thing that's happening around us. It's a beautiful game creation that we're in. And if you have barriers around you, you can't experience that. And I believe, and I know that vulnerability, for me, in a big way, did that. So yeah, and I think in that partnership setup, that's huge. That's huge. And then you can feel the other person. It's not just the universe's energy, but you can feel the other person's energy. And if energy sounds, foreign to one, then let's call it, you can feel the other person. You can feel the other person's soul. You can really connect with them. And a good friend of mine, used to say that, someone can only meet you as deep as you've met yourself. So the more vulnerable you are with yourself, that's how deep someone can meet me. So if I go into more vulnerability and meet myself deeper, then I can be met deeper, and that's the limitation. So I think vulnerability is so crucial.
Awesome, thank you. I just want to maybe just finish off with one more question. So your journey with plant medicine, started off with taking ayahuasca to get rid of the parasites. You did cacao. I can't remember everything, but I loved your description when you were now I know the west coast of Ireland. I visited Doolin, close to where you were, the cliffs of, what are they called? I'm going to show you the picture now. Tell us about your experience with plant medicine and just how it's helped you, how it hindered you on the journey, and particularly that's those mushrooms you tried in Ireland.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We actually had one of the transformational trainings, the TS, I call them the TS school in the book, and that's the Cliffs of Moher. That's right. It was like 2-3 kilometers, and it was in the western middle of Ireland. And then from there, I traveled south, and I stayed for a month in West Cork, and that's kind of where I wrote also a big part of the book. And so Ireland was profound. And maybe before I explain a bit about Ireland, I'll just mention that the journeys I did. Yeah, I did ayahuasca in only 2 journeys in Colombia. Then I did in Czech Republic, I did San Pedro, which is also a beautiful journey connecting with nature. San Pedro is a cactus, and also an amazing plant, very amazing plant medicine. It's like such a gentle, beautiful journey, a very deep journey with that. And then I did the Asylum, we call it mushrooms, in an island. And then I also did in Iboga a journey Iboga was actually before the mushrooms. I did a Iboga journey in the Swiss Alps, which was really profound. Iboga was just fascinating, deep journey. But yeah, the island one with mushrooms was amazing, So basically, I believe, or I know that, when you do these things, and if you do it with the intention and with respect to the plant, and I believe if you do these things outside the ritual, you're really opening yourself up for big shit. So don't do that. And I know some people go and do, but for example, mushrooms in the party space, I really think it is so dangerous in that space, or any of the plant medicines. But if you do it, I found when I did it with, one does it with that real sacredness in protecting the space around you. So that's, in the island journey, it was very much like that. So I had the training in India about how to protect the space, a lot of training on energy. So I had a beautiful journey in Ireland with it. I'm talking a book about it. I met this beautiful medicine woman that gave me heroic doses of mushrooms that I did on my own. I felt comfortable to do it on my own. I protected the space. On the farm, I was living on the farm on my own, with only a few sheep around. And I put the intention to connect with the spirits of Ireland and with the land, with the land of Ireland, and also with Mother Earth. Wow. And that was amazing. By then I was very clear that for you to really connect, and I believe it, to connect with your higher self, you really have to connect with the planet Earth, and you have to, number one, and number two, with your ancestors. That's just my view. Use or lose. It's just my personal knowing for myself. So I really put that forward for me in Ireland to connect with Mother Earth more. Remember, this is the guy that on Clifton Beach couldn't even see the beauty of it, so it was really important for me and I realized the importance of connecting with nature. So the island journey was amazing. It was like I really connected with nature. I was there for 5 hours in the rain, in the plants, and I was standing on grass, and I would move my feet, and I was like so worried that I was standing too long on the grass and I was killing the grass. So I felt such a connectedness with the planet and with the earth, and I really believe that is it. To go around and to want to force people into not to harm the planet, or give them incentives to not to harm the planet, none of that ain't gonna work. The only way is to really, one by one, drop into a deep connectedness and to realize how we are not separate, and we're really part of not just everything, human consciousness, but also part of this beautiful planet we're on. And once you feel that, it's really impossible to harm anything. So that was profound. It was a profound experience, Mark.
Cool. And if you look at the poll results here, 50% of the people who replied said they have tried plant medicine and it made a positive impact in their life. 2% say they didn't like it. 40% say they haven't tried it, but they would like to. And 7% say, no, it's not for them. So that's quite interesting. Okay. What advice would you give to anybody who would like to try it for the first time?
Well, I think my first point would be, don't try it if it doesn't call you. As simple as that. I mean, you will only do plant medicine if you're called by it. And there's really no need to do plant medicine. There's no reason you have to do it. It's really when you're called by it, and you know when you are called, because it will come up in so many fronts in front of you. You know, someone will mention it here, you will come up in the conversation there, you'll read about it, you pop. So it will call you, and the specific plant will call you at the right time if it was to be. And I like Iboga. It's a pretty intense, hectic journey to go in, and I was called by that, and I was wow. And I read up about it. I was like, wow, you really want to do this? This is a very dangerous journey. And then I felt into it, and I realized the plant is calling me, and I did it. And you know, I'm not an expert on plant medicine. I've done only, you know, a few of these things. You know, probably less than you know, one or two each. You know, and I've got friends that have done 200-300, and people that are really doing the shamanic space on it. I believe it is something that calls you. If it calls you, then go there. If it doesn't call you, don't go there. Definitely don't go there. Don't go there as peer pressure or because your buddies are doing that. It's not necessary. It's not for you then.
Great. Thank you, Lenerd. We're going to take a few questions from the audience now. The first question we have, let's take this one from KK. What does it mean for someone to witness another's journey?
Hello, KK. It's good to see you, brother. We become good friends. In the context of where I'm now, I've started working with people on the spaces, and I found the power in it. Witnessing someone's journey gives immense power to them whilst they're on the journey. And this has happened for me more in like a guiding, coaching, magician kind of space that I've been doing it. You know, now after the book was published middle last year, I felt a calling to do a number of things, you know, taking people overseas on journeys, you know, to India and Prague. Luckily, I didn't execute on that. The voice actually told me not to. The voice said to me, no, focus on virtual. And then I actually went to Los Angeles and I did a whole virtual coaching thing, and beautiful kind of trainings and stuff there. And I did. And I also used in that space, you know, someone and explored exactly this thing that KK is talking about there, how powerful that could be to be witnessed. Now, remember, I didn't have that. I had to go on my own. I mean, 5 years ago, I was no one to talk to. I just had to, you know. So I would really not recommend what I did at all. This is a very hard way of doing it. I think having someone to witness it, to support you, to help you on this journey is powerful. And I think maybe that's what KK is alluding to, is that, yeah, it's really important. It can accelerate your journey by being witnessed and being held accountable for that process to get you to where you want to go to. Okay.
So Lee asks, who guided you to the period you should take on the journey and where to go, etc.?
Yeah, it's often on the blog or my Facebook post, I would say, okay, this actually became a really fun game. I don't know, some people, I'm sure a lot of people were already following me on that journey there. I would go like, okay, I'm leaving this country now in a day or two, or tomorrow, or the day after, or 2 days, 2-3 days, I'm going to leave. Where am I going? And that became a really beautiful, fun game. And people would say, okay, now you go to Bali or Lombok and so on. And funny enough is I didn't know either. I only booked tickets like a day or two. It often cost me a lot more money because I'm not booking not in advance. But I only booked tickets a day or two before. So the answer is I was just guided by the voice again. I was guided by external synchronicities and stuff that came up. I was really living what I was preaching. Not that I'm preaching anything, but I was really living what I was, exploring what I was kind of living. And the book was talk very much about that. Listening to your voice, let life live you. No, not towards the end of the book, not living life anymore. Life is living me. So I was really doing that in a practical way. So yeah, things would just happen. You know, I would be in a place and think, okay, why shall I go to? And then I would get a message from someone saying, I was in Bali somewhere, and someone said, well, I'm in Greece. There's this Osho meditation center here, and there's the summer festival, meditation festival happening, you know, wow, we had heard about that. And I went, oh, wow, that's where I should go. And 2 days later, I would be on that trip. And then when I went to India, I was thinking of going to India, to Pune, to go to the Osho meditation center. And then I talked to a brother of mine, Mario, and it was also in a book, and he was in McLeod Ganj, where the Dalai Lama's house is. And he was he messaged me, whilst I was still looking at tickets and said, "Oh, I see you in your journey, you're thinking about India, come to McLeod Ganj." And then I went, "Okay, I'm going to McLeod Ganj." And then only the next morning, or a day later, when I arrived at McLeod, I woke up the next morning, I realized where I was living was 100 meters from the Dalai Lama's house. I didn't know that. I didn't know the Dalai Lama was in McLeod Ganj. And then I had a beautiful journey, not with the Dalai Lama, but, with the Dalai Lama, in a way that we went to some discourses that he had there. He walked 1 meter past me and looked at me. It was just fascinating. So yeah, so that's really listening to the voice. That's what led me.
Cool. So somebody wants to know, do you rely solely on your intuition?
It's a tough question to ask a left brain guy. Well, if I say left brain, it's probably proposed now. Wow, it's a really good question. I apply the logical stuff. I still look at stuff. Okay, does this make sense? Logically, okay, let me analyze this, But I have to be honest with you. In the end, I go with my intuition. Now, when I was looking at last year, after the launching the book, I was thinking, okay, how can I take this forward? I really want to share this. I feel like my heart is going to share this in the world. And I was looking at sexuality workshops, residential workshops, or by taking people. A lot of people are asking, I don't want to travel on my own, but I want to go to India. Let's make groups of 10. And then the third one was the virtual coaching thing. All three logically made sense. But the second one, I remember this long before the days of Corona. This was like October, November last year. It made perfect sense taking people to India and this stuff. And it felt so good. And it looked logically wise good. But there was just something I didn't execute. It was just something just said to me, no, I don't know. And I couldn't understand it. And I got a little bit frustrated with myself, and I'll be vulnerable with that. Even though I say rely on my intuition, it's a really tough process because I got a bit frustrated with myself. Why am I not actioning this thing? I felt a bit, and I had even people close to me getting a little bit irritated with myself. Why am I sitting in this feminine energy? You must now go out and do stuff in the world, and all coming from a place of love. But I could also sense that from people around me, and I really felt it also in a way. But this intuition was quite strong, and when the third one came, the virtual kind of coaching, magician work came up, I went like, okay, I think and that felt right. So there's an example of following the intuition, but also the process I had to go through to get there. It was quite hard to do that, but yeah, it's a mixture of the two.
There's a question from Anonymous. So how do we work with vulnerability and heart space when we're in lockdown and being in isolation?
Sure. Wow, that's a good one. I really believe, I was writing something the other day. I tell you, I'm actually going to put it out there that I believe that don't almost be misguided by the social distancing thing. I really believe the social distancing thing is making us realize how important this connectedness and this vulnerability in this space is, and I think in lockdown, even though we don't have physical contact, just this interaction, I've had interactions with people on the space just on the screen. And as you said earlier in the start of this, Mark, whether we're in the same room or whether we're on the screen, energetically, there's no difference. There are 100 or 200 people, whoever, many people on this call, and you and me, even though there's screens and we're sitting in our own environment here, energetically, we're instantaneously together. So I believe we can do the same. I think we can connect with someone, loved one, on a video call, a sound call, voice call. I believe video is really good because you really feel the energy a bit more, and you can be vulnerable. So I think it's opportunity to actually go and speak to someone, even if it's not in person. Have a one-on-one face call and just share, be vulnerable, and maybe say, what's coming up for me now? What's coming up for you now? Have a sacred circle of let's share where I am now. How do I feel? Where do I feel great? Where do I feel bad? And actually share your vulnerability, share your deep, dark despair.
Great, thank you. That's lovely. Where would you direct people who are curious about Tantra, or do you know any places in Cape Town where people can find out more, get an introduction into Tantra?
Yeah, I think there's a website on Tantra, Cape Town Tantra, South Africa Tantra. There's actually quite a lot happening. So I would recommend if you even on Facebook, put in Tantra, then it will pop up a lot of Facebook groups in the South African space. That's happening here. There's also an organization that do beautiful trainings, International School of Temple Arts. They've got trainings happening once a year in South Africa also. You can Google that. I know they do beautiful trainings all over the world, but they're also now in South Africa. And we've got some beautiful, amazing women and men here in Cape Town that do beautiful work, and I came across this, obviously, after 5 years out of the country, came back in the last year or two, mainly still moving around, but mainly in South Africa. And I came across an amazing, beautiful community of people here. Rather than put names here, is that the moment you start looking into that, you'll pick up very quickly. There are some really good people here, and you're very welcome to pop me a note or email also, and I can direct you in terms of that. Yeah, there definitely is some good stuff happening.
Yeah, I think the advice you received from Brother Easy would be good for people when you were considering whether or not to do a particular workshop, and he taught you how to feel into something. How would you recommend people do that?
Yeah, I would just say, that's a really good point, Mike. There's all the intuition thing, the voice thing, feeling into it. Is just go and sit still for a while, and just drop into your heart space. Even if you don't know what is the heart space, just have the intention of dropping into the heart space. I have this crazy guy that I did also one of the workshops with in India on the energy and shamanic work. You take a little pebble in your, keep it in front of your third eye, and you drop it to your heart, and then you're in your heart space. Or a little lift go from your head to your little man walking in, climbing in, and then going down into your heart, and then climbing out in your heart. So there's so many of this, but I think the heart space is really it. Dropping into your heart, dropping into your body, sitting, breathing, feeling your sensations in your body. We say in our brain, in our mind, and our mind is a beautiful way of analyzing and doing stuff, but the mind is only so small part of our being. There's so much broader stuff to get the knowledge from. So drop into the body, drop into the heart.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Lenerd. I'm going to call it a day because we could really talk all night. I've still got another page full of questions that I was hoping to get to, but it's really been a special evening listening to your answers. I'm going to share the link in the chat for everybody who wants to access your book. They can go to your website. It's available there. You're doing coaching now. You're doing some other work. Maybe you can just finish off by telling us what people can expect on your website and how they can contact you and how you can help.
Oh, Mark, awesome! Yeah, but I must say this virtual coaching thing is really exploded. I just love it. So I work on one-on-one with people, and I don't even call it coaching, magician work. I on a one-on-one basis where we do a journey together, and it's really it gives me so much joy, to assist people with that, to witness them on their process, to support them. You have to do the work yourself, but having someone there to support you, to help you, to have your back, and also to keep you accountable. That's a big part. It's all cool to talk about this stuff and go and sit and talk to someone or even to a shrink or whatever, but you sit and talk, but where are you going? So that's what I like, and maybe that's a little bit of the business part of me, like results, So I like people telling me, what do you want? And then actually really finding out what they want, and if they get to what they really want, then say, okay, well, let me help you get there. It's I call it minimum support. And so I love doing that. So the guiding, coaching, magician work is very much something, and I believe it's not, I call it magician work because if you sit in that space together, and we do it very much like you started this call also, drop into the heart space, then the wisdom just comes in. We help, we protect it, our higher self, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, we guide it, we protect it. That the answers just come streaming in. So that's something that's out there I love to do. I might down the line do an online kind of thing with a jump, maybe the book, and maybe you can work with more people than just one-on-one, feeding into that. So if there's an interest in, then people can pop me a note or email on that, then I might put like a group of 10 or 20, 30 together for a 6-week kind of journey. I'm very much feeling the calling for that. The voice is telling me there's something there. I'm very passionate about the sexuality stuff, so I was gonna do like sexuality, weekend retreat similar to the transformational school stuff that I wrote in the book. And I will still do that down the line. I think that's definitely still something I really love and do. We're in lockdown now, but things are going to change. This is, things change. 6 months, 9 months, a year from now, a different space. And then there's even more awareness of the connectedness of this intimacy part, So there are quite a few number of things there to look at.
Well, I'm going to be watching closely because I know that you've got some magic within, and it's been wonderful to hear just a glimpse of it. I encourage everyone to, if they haven't yet read your book, go to your website, lenerdlouw.com /book, and they can get hold of your book there. And Lenerd, just thank you very much. It's been a very special evening. You've really touched a lot of us. You've helped a lot of us, and just hearing your journey is going to help others on their journey. So really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you very much.